So I am considering emulation pretty heavily these days, but not for the reasons that you might be thinking. So I'm going to be taking a trip, a family vacation, and it is going to involve a very long flight. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be taking, at the very least, my Switch Lite. Now, my Switch Lite, I'm not too married to. It does have a little bit of damage to one of the analog sticks, so I'm not going to be heartbroken if it gets dropped or if water gets on it. I'm not too worried about it in that regard. Even if it's something that we take to the beach, if we're going to spend a day at the beach and maybe you just want to have like a little something to play, to pass the time when you're in the tent or something like that. So I'm more than likely going to be taking the Switch Lite, which that's okay. But I was heavily considering taking my Analog Pocket with me, just for the time that I'll be spending in the airport and on the plane, because as I said, it's going to be a pretty long flight. So I was really considering taking my Analog Pocket. Now, I really like the Analog Pocket because obviously the biggest reason is because of that the backlit screen. It's super bright, it's super colorful. It really brings out the beauty in my retro games. And one of the best parts is that you can actually play retro hardware on this device. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I was really considering taking my Analog Pocket with me on this vacation. But I've recently been looking at a couple of emulation devices, and for those of you who follow the channel, I'm really not big on emulation devices. In fact, I don't have any type of emulation device. I don't have, outside of the Analog Pocket, everything that I own is pretty much OEM, factory made, original hardware. I don't really get any of the secondary hardware or emulation devices outside of the Analog Pocket. And I really got this one because of all of the different features. I haven't really even tapped into the full capabilities of my Analog Pocket. There are some adapters that I need to get so that I can play games for other consoles, like the Game Gear, TurboGrafx, things like that. So a lot more that I can do with the Analog Pocket that I'm not doing. But within the context of vacation and traveling with this device, I don't really feel like the Analog Pocket is going to be the best travel device for me. There is a form factor out of all my handhelds that I really, really appreciate more than any of them all, and it's honestly the Game Boy Advance SP. I'm a huge fan of this form factor. It's small, it's lightweight, and I think the whole flip feature is like superb because the way the clamshell folds up, it allows for protection on the screen as well as the buttons, so you don't really have to worry about any real damage going to those parts of the console while you're traveling, whether you keep it in your pocket or whether you put it in luggage or anything like that. So I really wanted to take my Game Boy Advance SP with me. However, the thing with this is that I run into kind of a similar problem that I would have with the Analog Pocket, which is that I would have to bring all the cartridges for all the games that I would want to play. Now, granted, with the Analog Pocket, I can download games to the actual device or to an SD card and play them on the Analog Pocket off the SD card, which is a very good option. But then I lose this really nice uniform form factor that I get with the Game Boy Advance SP. And so that has me considering a handheld emulation device that I've been reading up on and I've been looking at, and I'm hoping that the Y2K community can kind of let me know if this is a good option or not. And the device that I'm looking at is the Abernic RG, I think it's the RG3 or the RG35XXSP. I think that's it, the RG35XXSP. There's so many letters and numbers to that device, but it's basically the handheld device from Abernic that basically mimics a Game Boy Advance SP, but is obviously an emulation device that can play, I think it plays pretty much games from the NES, the Super Nintendo, probably like all fourth generation, I think fifth and sixth generation, because from what I understand, you can play N64 games on it. you can also play Dreamcast games on it. So I'm not sure what all you can play on that handheld device, but it does sound like there's a lot of devices or a lot of consoles that you can play on it. And it has a very nice form factor. Now, I know that it's not as small as the Game Boy Advance SP. I think it's actually a little bit thicker than the Game Boy Advance SP, and I think it's a little bit bulkier. So it is a bit bigger. However, what you do get with that is you also get an additional 2 buttons here for any games that have like the four button optionality. And then you also get 2 additional trigger buttons here. So like an L2 and an R2, as opposed to just having an L and an R, which also comes in handy if you're going to be emulating certain types of games or certain consoles. The other big thing that I liked about it is that it does come with a USB charging port, so that's actually pretty cool. And with just an SD, just with a micro SD card, I could have a ton of devices or a ton of games that I can play on that type of device. Now, it is something that I'm really looking into. The other good thing about it is that from what I've seen, the little research that I've done on it, it doesn't seem to be a very expensive device either. It looks like I can probably order one on Amazon and have it here within 2 days. That would wind up costing just about 75 bucks. So for 75 bucks, I'd get a pretty amazing handheld device with the capabilities of playing a lot of games and providing me a lot of hours of entertainment while I'm traveling. And the best part is that I don't have to worry about bringing any of my original gaming hardware. All of that can just stay back at home, safe and sound. And I think I'd be more okay with damaging or losing kind of like an Anbernic type of emulation device than I would feel about maybe actually losing my Game Boy Color or my PlayStation Vita, which is another device that I was considering bringing and just downloading a bunch of games onto my Vita. So it was really either my Vita, my PSP, the Analogue, or the Game Boy Advance SP. And I feel like this Anbernic device kind of just combines a lot of the features that I love about all those devices into one and just puts them into one really cool retro looking emulation handheld device. And so that's kind of where my thought process has been. And it would be pretty much me opening myself up to a whole new aspect of gaming, just because I've always used the original hardware for pretty much my entire collection, with the Analogue Pocket being the exception. But I am really looking into the Anbernic RG35 XXSP device, and I'll probably go with the more traditional retro looking colorway, that gray colorway with the kind of the purple or the burgundy looking buttons. That just reminds me of the original Game Boy. So you guys let me know down in the comments what you think the best option would be. Do you think I should go with my Analogue Pocket? Do you think I should go with my Vita? Do you think I should just bring the SP and a bunch of cartridges? Or do you think the Anbernic emulation device is a solid way to go? I really want to hear from the emulation community if you guys know of any other emulation devices that I should look into. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. So Y2K Collector, take it easy.